Have you ever said something in English that was technically correct, grammatically perfect, completely understandable, and yet the moment it left your mouth, you felt something shift in the room? Maybe the other person's face changed slightly. Maybe the energy became tense. Maybe the conversation felt colder. And you walk away thinking, what did I say wrong? The frustrating part is that you didn't say anything wrong. The grammar was right. The vocabulary was right. The sentence structure was clean, and yet it didn't land the way you expected. Why is it that two people can say almost the same thing using the same grammar, but one sounds confident and respected, while the other sounds rude or aggressive? Why does one person come across as calm and powerful and the other as demanding or harsh? The learners who master this layer of English often advance faster in their careers and relationships than those who focus only on technical correctness. The secret isn't vocabulary. It's not advanced grammar. It's tone. More specifically, it's what I call soft English. Today, we're going to talk about something that textbooks rarely teach. They teach you verb tenses. They teach you conditionals. They teach you passive voice, but they rarely teach you how power actually works in English speaking environments. And if you don't understand this layer of communication, you can unintentionally damage relationships, weaken your authority, or sound more aggressive than you intend. The clear problem is this: textbook English often sounds too direct. Many learners speak grammatically correct English that feels blunt. It feels like a command. And that's not because you're impolite. It's because you were trained to prioritize clarity and correctness, not social collaboration. Think about how many textbooks teach requests. They might start with imperative sentences. Open your book, close the window, give me the file. These are structurally correct. But in real life, especially in professional or social settings, they can feel abrupt. In some languages, directness equals efficiency. It equals honesty. It equals strength. But in English, especially in North American and British contexts, directness without softening can signal dominance, irritation, or disrespect. Another issue is direct translation. If in your native language, it's normal to say, close the door to a colleague or even a friend, you might naturally translate that into English. Grammatically, nothing is wrong, but culturally, something is off. English relies heavily on subtle markers of politeness. And when those markers are missing, the sentences feel harsher than intended. Textbooks also tend to focus on correctness over pragmatics. Pragmatics is the study of how language is used in real situations, not what sentences mean, but what they do socially. A sentence doesn't only transfer information, it signals attitude. It signals relationship. When you say you're wrong, you're not only correcting information, you are positioning yourself above the other person's perspective, even if you don't mean to. So let's clarify the problem more deeply. It's not just about what you say, it's how you say it. English relies heavily on softening language for social harmony. Softening doesn't mean being weak. It doesn't mean being unclear. It means framing your message in a way that maintains respect and relationship while still communicating your point. Take a simple sentence like close the door. Imagine saying that to a coworker. Even if you say it with a neutral voice, it sounds like an order. Now take this alternative. Would you mind closing the door? The core message is identical. The door needs to be closed. But the second version invites cooperation. It signals that you recognize the other person's autonomy. It reduces friction. Or consider disagreement. If someone presents an idea in a meeting and you respond with, "You're wrong," you may believe you're being honest, but honesty without tact can damage trust. Many English-speaking professional environments, disagreement is expected, but it's softened. You might hear, "I see it a bit differently," or "I'm not sure I agree with that approach," or "That's an interesting point, but I wonder if we could look at it from another angle." These phrases do something subtle but powerful. They separate the idea from the person. They lower defensiveness. They keep the conversation collaborative instead of confrontational. Without softening tools, you may unintentionally lose social power. This is the paradox. Many learners think that being direct makes them sound strong, but in English-speaking cultures, controlled softness often signals higher status. People who are truly confident don't need to sound harsh. They can afford to be diplomatic. They can afford to be measured. They can afford to be calm. So what's the solution? The solution is mastering soft English for social power. This is not about becoming passive. It's about becoming strategically polite. It's about learning how to sound confident without sounding rude. It's about understanding when directness is appropriate and when it needs cushioning. I've created a free PDF on some of the most common phrases that we use that may sound rude or harsh, along with some softened alternatives and all of the tips that we've shared today. You can access this through the link in the description. One of the simplest tools you can use is modal verbs. Words like could, would, might, and may are powerful softeners. Compare "send me the report" with "could you send me the report?" That single word changes the energy of the sentence. It transforms a command into a request. If you add "when you get a chance," it softens even more. "Could you send me the report when you get a chance?" Now you're signaling patience. You're signaling flexibility. Indirect phrasing is another powerful tool. Instead of saying "that won't work," you can say, "I'm not sure that will work in this situation." Notice the difference. The first sentence shuts the door. The second sentence opens space. It leaves room for discussion. It acknowledges uncertainty instead of presenting your opinion as the absolute truth. Diplomatic disagreement is a skill that dramatically increases your credibility. Phrases like, "I see it a bit differently," "I understand your point, but I'm wondering if there's another option," or "from my perspective," allow you to maintain authority while reducing tension. They show emotional intelligence. And in professional settings, emotional intelligence often matters more than raw correctness. Now let's look at some practical transformation in detail. Imagine you're at home and someone leaves the window open. You say, "Close the window." Technically, fine, but it feels like an instruction. Instead, try, "Would you mind closing the window?" Or even, "Could you close the window for me?" The addition of "for me" creates warmth. It sounds cooperative. In the workplace, instead of "send me the report," say, "Could you send me the report when you have a moment?" That phrase, "when you have a moment," acknowledges the other person's workload. It shows respect. It doesn't weaken your authority. In fact, it often strengthens it because people are more willing to respond positively to respectful language. Let's talk about correction. If a colleague presents incorrect data and you say, "You're wrong," you risk embarrassment. A softer alternative might be, "I think there might be a small error here." Or, "I might be mistaken, but I believe the numbers are slightly different." Even if you're certain, softening your correction maintains dignity. It protects the relationship. And here's something important. Soft English doesn't mean you avoid clarity. There are situations where directness is appropriate. Emergencies, safety issues, urgent deadlines. If there's a fire, you don't say, "Would you mind considering leaving the building?" You say, "Get out now." Context matters. Power is knowing when to be direct and when to be diplomatic. Tone also plays a huge role. Or you can use relatively direct words and a warm tone and sound kind. So practice not just the words, but the delivery. Lower your volume slightly, slow down your pace, avoid upward tension in your voice. Confidence in English often sounds calm, not loud. Another subtle strategy is adding perspective markers. Phrases like, "in my opinion, from what I understand," or "as far as I can tell," reduce the sense of attack. They frame your statement as a viewpoint rather than a verdict. Instead of, "That's inefficient," you might say, "From my perspective, this might not be the most efficient approach." Same idea, different impact. You can also use question forms to soften suggestions. Instead of "change this section," try, "Do you think we could revise this section?" Questions invite collaboration. They transform hierarchy into partnership, and partnership builds influence. Now, I want you to notice something deeper. Soft English is not about pleasing everyone. It's about controlling social friction. When you reduce unnecessary friction, your ideas travel further. People listen longer. They resist less. You become someone who is not only competent, but also pleasant to work with. And in most professional environments, that combination is incredibly powerful. So how do you build this skill? You practice upgrading your sentences. Think of your everyday phrases. What will you say frequently? Maybe you say, "Help me with this." You can upgrade it to, "Can you help me with this for a minute?" Maybe you say, "That's not right." You can upgrade it to, "I'm not sure that's quite right." Maybe you say, "Explain this." You can upgrade it to, "Could you walk me through this?" I've created a free PDF with some of the most common phrases and their upgraded versions, their softened versions that you can access through the link in the description. If you're working towards advanced fluency and want some extra help, check the link in the description for our community, the B2C Nation. This is an online group that we've created for you to help you get from intermediate to advanced English. Start small. Choose 3 common direct phrases you use regularly, rewrite them in softer, more diplomatic language. Say them out loud. Pay attention to how they feel in your mouth. Or do they feel smoother? Often learners fear that softening makes them sound less authoritative. But in reality, it makes them sound socially intelligent. Then use at least one softened phrase in a real conversation within the next 24 hours. Not in practice, not in your notebook, in real life. Notice the reaction. Notice the tone shift. Notice how the conversation flows. Language is not just about transmitting information, it's about shaping interaction. As you continue developing your English, remember this. Fluency is not only about grammar and vocabulary size, it's about control. Control over tone, control over nuance, control over how your message lands. Soft English is quiet power. It's the ability to say difficult things gently. It's the ability to disagree without creating enemies. It's the ability to request without commanding. And once you see it, you start noticing it everywhere. In meetings, in interviews, in leadership, the most respected communicators are rarely the loudest or the most direct. They are the most calibrated. So next time you're about to say something direct, pause for 1 second and ask yourself, can I soften this without losing clarity? That tiny pause can transform your communication. And over time, those small adjustments compound into a completely different presence. Upgrade one sentence today, just one, because when you change your tone, you don't just change your English, you change your influence.